Safety is just a tool to help reduce the risk associated with work. And, good risk reduction plan is a good safety. So that's the first thing that we have to recognize. Safety's role is to support the organizational goals, not to be in opposition. And that's what a good safety program does. Where the rubber hits the road in safety is, are we observing behaviors daily on the field? Because the work life changes 24/7. As quick as they're doing work, they're changing the work conditions. So we have to monitor the behavior and actions right there on the field. So that line supervision, that's your critical link. And we have to be dynamic in our process. Situations change, work evolves, work methods, equipment evolve. So what worked 5 years ago in the company might not be as effective. And our audience is changing. Clearly, the younger workforce, they have a different expectation when they're talking to people. They process information different. That's probably one of the biggest challenges we have on the training side.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers podcast. I am 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗆, founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding. And today, we are going to cover all topics safety, training, OSHA, and I've got a perfect expert here, someone who has started a company in 2009. They are an owner, a founder, a business leader just like us, and they are also leading a team. Mr. David Cook, how are you doing?
Well, good morning. Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you coming on. So you're tackling a topic that we all have to manage and deal with, especially in construction. I mean, safety is a big concern in any business for anyone, but it is a heightened security in the construction world, manufacturing world, and a lot of the people, quite frankly, that serve around the industry. Talk a little bit about what your company does and where your focus is now and how we can help folks today.
Well, that was a great way to frame it because safety is a part of every company. A lot of people, it's this big black hole they don't quite understand. And to other companies, it's a real asset and something they promote vigorously. My company, Safety Solutions and Supply, we're designed to be a technical resource to folks like you, folks that are getting things done. I tell everyone there's one reason I have a safety degree, because I couldn't pass cost accounting. I run a business. I have a very capable CPA that keeps oversight on our books. I always encourage our clients to look at us in that regard. We are that technical bandwidth to support you in the field of safety. Some companies have a very mature process where we're just coming in and helping on specific needs. Other companies need a little more guidance and control, and we do a lot more broad-based services.
I love it. So let's talk about if I'm a business owner and I'm in construction and I'm thinking, okay, safety is such a broad topic, but at the most important critical juncture, I want to keep my people safe, free of injury, alive on the job. And I've also grown a lot, or it's been a while since I've looked at my training. How do I engage with you and what can you help me do through the services of your company so that I can kind of frame it for everybody what you do?
I've never had a customer say, hey, we don't really care about our workers. Every company inherently wants to create a safe work environment. The question is how. And, it's a discipline just like other activities in the company, and that how gets passed around. And we see a lot of misguided good intent. What we do is really engage with the clients at two levels. Number one, making sure they're complying with the law. There's a lot of regulation behind what we do. But more importantly, creating a management system that works for the environment they're working in. Small companies, every company is unique. Smaller companies have one set of needs. Large organizations have a different structure. But you've got to find the method that works correctly in their work environment. So that's what we do. Take the basic safety principles, meet with their management team, and figure out where those gaps are and what is the most efficient way to fill those gaps.
I love it. So one of the things I saw looking in your background and realizing, you started your company in 2009, shortly after the recession, right in the middle of it for a lot. Talk a little bit about your journey founding the company and why you decided to start it then and how that all came about.
Well, it was kind of funny when I told my father I was starting this company. He kind of said, "You sure you want to do this right now?" Because you're right, the timing was a little bizarre. But my background is kind of unique in the fact that I actually went and got an education and stuck with it my whole career. So I grew up over in Louisiana. I got a degree in safety and health and industrial hygiene from LSU, and have been a practitioner in safety and health my whole career. When I was a younger man, my goal was to be, the top EHS manager in a big Fortune 500. And I rang that bell 3 times. 3 very good companies that I worked with. But 2 of the 3 situations, I found myself looking for work. And it wasn't really as a result of myself, it was a result of the company. One company, basically manufacturing in the US, had to move offshore and stay competitive and sold our division. Another one, same basic story. It was electronics manufacturing. They were doing a lot in the U.S. market, but they took everything offshore. The job was still there, but it was in another country. And but that was an interesting experience because they immediately hired me back, paying me more as a consultant. And it wasn't just myself; it was a lot of this, HR, quality, a lot of the support areas. And that's when I recognized that companies seem to be, more streamlined, very lean, and they're staffing for the immediate operational need. But when there's additional needs and demands like safety health setups, they're going to outsource that. And that was my inspiration to start the company. And I can tell you, there's not any company out there that, can't find one of the services we do. But, the design of safety solutions, we provide product, we provide training solutions, different consultative, programs, emergency response programs. And so we become a one-stop shop. And that's, and every client has unique needs. So that was what the design of safety solutions will engage. We started 2009, as you said. Right now, we have grown 15 years. We have 121 employees, and we have good presence within the Southeast. But currently, we're working in New York City, Washington State, Ohio. So we get spread around. But again, the whole thing is a one-stop shop solution, technical support.
So do most folks engage with you like on a project basis? Like they just had an event occur, maybe it was a bad event, maybe it's a new project and that needs to be managed? Or do most folks engage you like on a monthly basis for ongoing existing training? Like what's the right format?
The answer is really both.
Okay.
Obviously, when we can get in front of a project, that's the best use of the safety expense, is planning and putting together the proper systems so that we can communicate that and the line operational people can maintain those programs. But we get engaged in several different ways. Maybe it's problem resolution, an event, an inspection with the government, something like that. So we're engaged in that capacity. Many times we are just providing extra bandwidth. Contractor's got a big install, big job. He doesn't really have the resource to put safety people on that job site. We provide that solution for. And then we go to the extreme. We have a program we call embedded safety, which is really designed for the small to intermediate, small company up to 400 or 500 employees. They're not going to put a full-time safety and health professional in that organization. That's a very expensive, 6-figure kind of position. But they still need that level of support. So what we're doing is staff and contract basis a part-time professional. And the advantage of that program is really twofold. Number one, economics. Pay for what you use. It's a T&M type of structure. So when they actively need safety support, they're paying for safety support. But the project's over, the work demand declines, we retract. But the other value is on the technical side. because, you hire David Cook, you get all my strengths and knowledge of my 31-year career, but limitations, and none of us know it all. So maybe they have a DOT problem, maybe they have an industrial ID problem. Well, we have specialists within our organization that will come in and address those specific concerns. So, they have one facilitator, but they have a team of, a large pool of safety professionals behind that person. So it's a good structure, especially in construction, because, our workload, has such a, rise as far as the need. And so they pay for you, and we retract when, to lead projects. A lot of times, we have relationships with customers. We might be staffing and actively working on this, but we're working on the bid on the next one and writing that safety plan, helping them get qualified into that next one. Most construction companies face a lot of demands and expectations from safety. I get calls all the time. People ask me, what's the number one reason people come to Safety Solutions? And the outside world thinks it's the government. It's not the fear of the government. Typically, when companies come to us, either have an underwriting problem with workers' comp, or they have a client expectation and they need some help meeting those expectations. This was working with the roofing company this morning. Pre-qualification issues, the safety plan wasn't up to stuff. We had to go in and help bolster and do a little work on this plan. And once you get the work, and so there's always prerequisite training, the regulatory things. Maybe it's forklift operation, maybe it's confined space. Well, we can support that company in those capacities as well. We're the largest training company in the Southeast U.S.
David, let me ask this, thinking of all the businesses you've seen, the sites you've come onto, coming onto tragic events, entering into companies in a proactive manner, sometimes a reactive manner, where in your opinion are the top one or two risks, open blind spots that a typical construction business just is not paying attention to that they really need or should focus on?
We get so caught up in the dogma of creating a safety program and process, inspection, and daily reports and things like that. Where the rubber hits the road in safety is, are we observing behaviors daily on the field? Because the work site changes 24/7. As quick as they're doing work, they're changing the work conditions. So we have to monitor the behavior and actions right there on the field. So that line supervision, that's your critical link. And so you really need to have a good focus there. But we need to look at behavior and activity and not focus on things. It's easy to fall in that trap. Things are easy. I've never had a ladder argue back with me about a safety violation. So we always put checklists and controls and things. So we say, wow, look at all this effort and activity and energy we're putting into safety. But the real focus needs to be on the worker behavior on the field. So the eyes and the representation from management's perspective is that first line supervisor. These are a real critical link. One of the things that we do is, where do we recruit supervisors in construction? What's the typical approach? Well, we go to the good workers, right? We have a guy in the crew, and he really proves himself, and we like him, and he has a personality and attributes we do. And so we say, hey, we're going to ask you to now supervise this, excavation crew or this framing crew or whatever. And now he has a different expectation. But from safety's point of view, we never, give them that magic pill. Okay, this is how you manage safety as a supervisor. This is how we accomplish safety through other people's behavior. He focused his whole career on what he was doing, doing the right things for safety. That's great. But now he's got to coach some 19-year-old into doing the right things. How does he do it? What are the tools that we give him? That's where we see the breakdown, because we have to develop that. Safety is not like magic and voodoo. It's applying skills and techniques. But what is it really we ask of the worker? We're asking them to modify and change his behavior. So we have to, reach out and find that value system that triggers the response we need. Rules are great. Rules are necessary. They create kind of the boundaries of what we expect from performance in the company. But, we're asking for a safe behavior, a safe mindset. And that's what we need to really help our supervision learn how to have the tools to coach behavior. Because that's what it really comes down to, behavior modification.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because I agree with you. It's like that in all businesses. Who you promote and how you promote aren't always the best performers in the role that's being monitored, because managing and leading is a little different than the execution side than it is actually doing the field work itself. But you reminded me of something I learned a long time ago. It's a common phrase, but you have to inspect what you expect, and I think that's a good summary for what you just mentioned in terms of like line supervision and the basic minutia details each day are the things that keep you from safety incidents.
And what you just hit on right there is what we call a management system. You have to engage your people at the correct role. Senior management and ownership of a company have to provide the resource and manage at a very macro level the safety, performance, and activity. Middle management obviously needs to have a lot better complete understanding of the expectations and how the company does things, but really encouraging and monitoring the activity at the supervisory level. And then we have to create those accountabilities at the line level. But the role and activity is going to change as we move up and down the organization. How we measure safety. So many times we look at safety performance as, well, didn't have any accidents, we're safe. Say that all the time. Look at our record. You go out there, job site, and there's a nightmare of potential injury, and that's it. Everybody wants to be safe after they have a significant event, but we can't have those bellwethering events in an organization. And so when we start looking at line level, we've got to focus our energy and our accountability on the mechanics of what makes things go well. So yeah, it might be getting those equipment inspections, doing their job pre-plans correctly, doing audits and observations in the field. But when we get up to senior leadership of the company, they have to look at those passive indicators. But when we have to have a management system, safety and health plans are simple things. All they are is a playbook. This is how we're going to make this activity go well and safe in our organization. Middle management, they got to understand the playbook and make sure they got the tools and the equipment to run the play. Supervisors need to run the play. So, when we create accountability, we focus our accountability measurements for the lines guys on, are they actively following plays? And then at the macro level, at the senior level, we want to focus more on the bigger metrics of the company.
I love that.
Control really comes into play. A guy should be accountable for what he can influence. Supervisor in the field can control his crew, that he can't be accountable for the fact that the company has too safe.
Yeah. So thinking about this, there's two things that business owners, leaders of a business or that are empowered, and even the actual folks at any level in any business, they care about two things really. One is safety, right? Am I safe? Is this a good environment?
Oh yeah, production, safety, quality. That's what everybody's mantra is.
And then it's company performance. Am I winning? My company winning? Am I winning? So how does safety and safety programs or engaging with you, how can it help a business owner win more work? How can they utilize what they do around safety and how they engage with you to actually win more work through maybe they change their bidding process? Can you share a story or some suggestions and the best practices and how they can take this safety that they might look at as an expense and turn it into one of the second most important things that are in their business mind, which is growing your business?
Well, in our industry, we see that maturity in that process routine. You see the young startup companies, they are all about production and winning work and they're successful. but then their histories will catch up, you know, insurance rates and ratings and, you know, claims and accident history. The more mature companies definitely create and see that value. So where does that value come from? Well, you know, it's risk. And as any organization, myself included as a business owner, we manage risk every day. Safety is just a tool to help reduce the risk associated with work. And good risk reduction plan is a good safety plan. So that's the first thing that we have to recognize. Safety's role is to support the organizational goals, not to be in opposition. And that's what a good safety program does. We have to have good game plan that supports the organizational needs. So if we're running back trucks and getting into sewer systems, well, we got to have a good program and the ability to do that. But that's the way we make money. And so that's the first thing. Our safety program has to support the organizational goals and create those nuggets. Now, as far as an asset or liability, absolutely. As I said, usually the first driver of where we're getting engagement with companies isn't a regulatory or an interest rate, it's the clients they are working for. And we're seeing more and more strict expectations for safety review and performance. And we're not talking about the here and now. These passive indicators they're looking at are things like workers' comp experience spots, which trail back 4 years in this. They're looking at OSHA logs and safety performance metrics for 4 and 5 years. So, they're really, our past represents our present. And so that's a big thing that we see. We see more of those passive indicators in these pre-qualification systems. The other trend that we're seeing, especially in industrial construction, is these companies are outsourcing their pre-qualification to third parties. And so, a litany of clients right here in the Tampa Bay area, I can tell you, when you engage with them as a contractor, they're going to immediately push you over to one of these processes. And their third-party pre-qualification system. They're looking at things like insurance, but they're looking at your written safety programs, your performance metrics. And so we're seeing a lot more scrutiny, especially with the larger clients, than a lot of contractors have ever seen. So there's residential and light commercial guys out there. They're not maybe seeing as much of that, but even investment groups, where the capital is coming from, they're starting to ask those deeper, more probing questions.
Yeah.
But they're all managing risk. That's their focus. Risk reduction.
Do you see companies, or have you seen any companies that actually utilize taking these trends into consideration, where they're actually now as part of their bid, including what their safety program is, using it as an asset or highlighting it? Do you find them having success or gaining more work?
Absolutely. It's part of the criteria for bid evaluation. So creating an asset, I've got a friend of mine, 600 people in a roofing company. That's a heck of a risk to manage. Not only is he enjoying fiscal rewards and the 6 figures as far as his safety performance, so it has an economic return to his organization, he's getting work over his competitors because of the fact that they know that they have a well designed and effective safety and health program on job site. And so absolutely they promote it. It might be your technical qualification of your field personnel, the education. I'm sure, government and contracts might impose a requirement. Hey, they got to have OSHA 10s and 30s. That's an awareness basic training. If I can go in there and say, that's a basic, we got that. This is what we do for our development. Those programs exist. That's what the bigger, more nationalized construction companies, that is their culture. That is the way they operate. So sure, and definitely there's many companies that have, promoted, created this and should, it's a differentiator.
Can someone engage with you as part of the service you provide to highlight it properly and effectively? Do you have a format and a template that you can because a lot of people say, what's your safety record? Okay, cool. We can put that on. But how do you really frame up and highlight it the way it should be said, where it's recognizable outside of just facts of, hey, I haven't had any accidents, like you said?
That's a very good question because I work with companies all the time that are very safe and conscientious employers. A lot of times in safety, we see the right processes, but they're not able to demonstrate them because they haven't formalized. So they're doing the right things, but they're not really recognizing, hey, that's a good process. And so absolutely, creating that structure that aims to recognize that we're meeting the needs of our industry or customer, but also doing it right well. We talk about safety, quality, and productivity. We always talk about job performance and completion and on-time schedules, but yeah, safety is as big an asset. So it's a matter of just framing the message.
I love that. So going into construction, one of the other things we think about are the stigmas around construction. And construction, it's we've all heard the stats, but you hear some of them that stick out to me is 40% of the workforce in construction is going to be set to retire or need to turn over in the next 10 years. And so if you think if that's true or even close to true, we're obviously going to need to make some adjustments and changes to attract a new workforce, a younger workforce into construction. What is going on in the safety world that if I'm a young professional coming out of high school or maybe even coming out of college even or trade school or associate's degree saying, hey, what can the safety industry offer me if that's where they wanted to enter construction?
It's a great career path. And there's really two paths. There's the degree programs and then the technician. And, in our organization, we have great technician level employees and, we're the formal educated employees. And there's a place for both of them. A lot of times in construction, we need more of that technician, knowledgeable. The challenge is development. And, so when we chart a path, unfortunately, there's not a lot of formal education out there. So we have to create an educational path that meets their needs. There are third-party organizations, professional associations that offer certification and at differing levels, technician path and degree path that definitely have value as far as development. There are some private programs out there that are offering some development, but that's a big gap. We develop as a safety professional. We kind of joke around here that we grow our own because that's what we do. We find those people that are well-intended. We have to, create a developmental path, to get them, move forward. Obviously, we have an advantage in our organization because we work with such a diversity of customers that they get to see a lot of different types of work environment. Maybe high rise, and then we're doing utility work, and then we're in a chemical plant, we're in a power plant. So we have the opportunity to develop more than a private employer, but every company has risk. Now, if I'm a site utility guy, obviously I'm in the dirt all day. So it's all about trenching, excavation safety, heat stress, and material handling. So we focus our education there. So maybe it's rigging, rigging education. But again, we have to kind of create a developmental curriculum that gets that technician on its feet.
And so,
here in the state of Florida, we do not offer any accredited training programs.
Wow, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there are 7 accredited safety degrees in the United States.
What are the income expectations for someone coming out? So just think about someone's coming out of high school and they're like, I'm going to take this path. Maybe they start, get some on the job experience, and they can go back to school. What is a typical path over a 3 or 4 year period?
Believe it or not, here in the Florida market, it's a little tougher. I've worked in Louisiana and the oil industry side. Most of those guys are entering at $25 to $30 an hour. And they can command, if they're willing to do travel work, $50 to $60 an hour once they get a little education experience and maybe a few basic certifications. So it's a good income. Unfortunately, we here in Florida, our salaries are a little suppressed. We don't pay quite on national average in safety. but a degreed safety professional is easily 120,000.
Really? Wow. See, that's awesome. See, and those are the types of stories.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, I think those are the types of stories that need to be told, because I think a lot of people wouldn't, they just don't know. I mean, talking to young folks that are thinking about where they want to go or go to a trade school, go into college, I don't think there's a thought in their mind, I know there's not, that they can make $120,000. Then they hear what the electrician's path is, a plumbing path, a safety path. I mean, these are all six-figure incomes within the same time period that they, quite frankly, would go to school.
I was a member of a group called NCCER, National Center for Construction Education Research. And a lot of their focus was just that, developmental training for construction trade, carpentry, electrician, all of it, welding, and safety was a part of that curriculum. That's the role I was in, with them, supporting that. And that organization was all about, there are a lot of good career paths in construction, and safety being one of those career paths. And so I agree with you. We need to promote more of that. We need to get that messaging down in the schools and stuff, because people are simply unaware of the occupation exists. I always joke, in our marketing team, we always joke that we're the greatest thing nobody's heard of, because people don't think about safety organizations being able, being out there. But that's true for the safety professionals, that young kid coming out of school. You talk about the dynamics of the workforce. Some of the best safety technicians I work with are guys coming off their tools. They get a little longer in the tooth. They're looking for a different challenge and experience. They can really relate to the work and what they're looking at as far as the behavior. We just need to give them some technical education and support them in that way. And I've got several guys that I work with here in the company. They're excellent. So, it's not just the entry-level guy. It could be that guy who's been in that craft or trade with something different. And like I said, they're very good. We use a lot of technology in safety. People don't realize that. Databasing observations, because we're looking at behavior. So we're looking for behavioral trends. There's data analysis nowadays that, pretty much all of our tools are designed on cell phone apps and laptops. So technology is part of the game. And so tech savvy, young, Gen Zers, there's definitely a role for them. Now, when we get into training and education, you talk about the construction workforce, but you failed to mention one of the biggest challenges that we see, which is non-English. That is a big issue for, I was at a company last week, and I'd say 70% of the workforce didn't speak English. And so we have to create a way to get to them, and talk to them at a level, that makes sense. The bilingual safety professionals, yeah, they can write their pick in their own construction industry. Everybody was bilingual.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me I have one other question for you before I jump into a different setup. But what do you think one of the most important lessons you've learned in the safety world, that if folks heard nothing else today, that would resonate most with them moving forward from this conversation?
That's a good question. To your audience, I would have to say, I had a boss years ago, a great mentor in my career. And, he was always adamant that, you get what you want. And when we start talking about commitment, we always say, we're committed to a safe work environment. Commitment in the business world is money and time. And we have to budget and allow, the funds to support the activities associated with safety. That might be that safety presence, but it also could be the training and activities that it takes. And are we spending the time? And again, that time needs to be allocated uniquely at each level of the organization towards that goal. But it really comes down to money and time. And I have people all the time. Hey, we're all about safety. Look at our safety record. We haven't had anything that we put on paper. But are they putting any money and time into it, or is it just happenstance? Now, the average construction company, well, we're getting 25 to 50% annualized turnover in the labor force. And so we got to create controls that make our expectations reality in the field. So that's where the commitment comes into play. Are we putting our money there? Are we putting our time in?
I love it. That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's right in line. We were talking about earlier too, just even if your field superintendents, inspecting what you expect and doing it consistently is what builds those habits and repeat patterns and kind of just ingrains safety into your culture.
And we have to be dynamic in our process.
Mm-hmm.
Situations change, work evolves, work methods, equipment evolve. So what worked 5 years ago in the company might not be as effective today. And our audience is changing. The younger workforce, they have a different expectation when they walk in the door. They process information differently. That's probably one of the biggest challenges we have on the training side, because we got boomers like me in the audience, but then we also got that 19-year-old and everyone in between. And they all have different learning styles and methods. As a father, I watch my kids, how they process information and what information brought to them, totally different. The general expectation of the employer, as far as safety, is different with a young person entering the workforce than what we're accustomed to with the more aged worker that you mentioned leaving.
I love it. We'll put ways to contact David in the show notes. You can see and click below. In the meantime, everyone, thank you very much for joining. Please share the show. Check out David and I both on our LinkedIn profiles. You can find us both on the websites and the show notes. And until next time, I wish you all the best and God bless you. Have a great day.